I'm just gonna, I mean, from what you've heard tonight, I think you'll all agree it's a very exciting place to be. And I really like the way that Macquarie does their overlapping courses. And as I found going through my job, that more and more the requirements are, as things become more and more integrated, we've got the computer world and the wireless world, everything's coming together. So the overlapping between the different, sorry, I wasn't close enough to the mic. I think I have a big enough mouth that you'd have heard me anyway. But so I would like to just explain a little bit about Huawei first before I talk about the partnership program and the scholarship. Because I don't know how many of you here, just put your hands up, how many of you, before Steve mentioned Huawei, how many of you have heard about Huawei before this? So there's a few of you. Not so many. So usually what I find is people don't know who we are. So it's a good opportunity to explain and let you know who we are and see what you might have an opportunity to get into in the future by joining the Macquarie Engineering Program. So as Steve mentioned, I'll repeat some of these. We are actually, at the moment, as of the last couple of months, Huawei has now become the largest telecommunications manufacturing company in the world. We're up there with Ericsson, Nokia, Siemens, Alcatel-Lucent, and we've now surpassed these guys, and we're actually #1 for our production. Globally, we have over 140,000 employees, and approximately 62,000 of those are involved in research and development. So we think that's one of the major advantages of Huawei is the research and development that we do. So that puts us in the leading edge with technology when it comes to all of the telecommunication fields. 32.4 billion in revenue in 2011, so you can see we're not a small company, our income is quite large, but we recycle about 45% of that back into research and development. So there's huge opportunities within Huawei for R&D. Just a picture here, this is global, so we are located right across the globe. We've got 14 regional headquarters, and as you can see, there's many dots around there. So we have training centers around the world, we have research and development, and then of course we have regional offices. I'm part of the Sydney office. We're located in Chatswood, and we've got about 800 people here in Australia at the moment. So just a quick look at what Huawei, how we're structured. We are traditionally work towards the carriers. We're a vendor supplying equipment to the likes of Optus, VHA, Telstra. We're an end-to-end equipment vendor, but we're also a service provider. So we provide, when I say end-to-end, I mean from the device to the carrier networks, the transmission access networks, right through to the management platforms and software applications. So we work right across all of this, and with a staff of 140,000, it's easy to cover all of that. So traditionally, we work towards the carriers, and within the last 2 years, we started a new group, which is called Enterprise, and I'm part of that group. So I deal mostly with mining industry, railway industry for communications, utility companies, power companies for smart grid networks, smart electricity. So there's a lot of opportunity in those areas, and we find those areas are booming at the moment. And as you all know, mining seems to be #1 in Australia at the moment, and there's a lot of interest in the mining area for advancing automation. And we're heavily involved in the last probably year in many proposals towards the mining companies for automation using LTE, 3G, 4G technologies. And we also have a devices group. So a lot of you may be familiar with we have Android handsets, tablets, we have dongles, we have devices within the laptops. So we are full end-to-end service or vendor and service provider. And then we have emerging technologies, and that's, I have no idea what these guys are into, but they're looking to the innovative future productions. As I mentioned, R&D is a big part of the company. So we recycled 12% of revenues back into R&D, and that's quite a large portion. 23 R&D centers worldwide, as you saw on the map, were scattered all over the place. And patents, which maybe some of you will be involved in the future. You never know how you go with your work within Macquarie. But we have a huge amount of patents, and 90% of those are invention patents. We are not only an equipment vendor, but of course we're a good corporate citizen. So we look after, we do a lot of sponsorship. We're involved heavily in local organizations. For those of you who are into NRL, we sponsor the Canberra Raiders, but we also sponsor organizations like Tour de Cure. We have a lot of sponsorship in that area as well. And of course, we look after our employees. As I mentioned, in Australia, we have over 800 employees. That varies depending on the contracts. But currently, we're working on the VHA swap out. We're swapping out the entire VHA network. And we also do the Optus rural network. We sell devices to all of the operators, including Telstra. We don't provide any of the infrastructure to Telstra, but we do to Optus and VHA. And the partnership program. So we do have many partners locally here, and current customers in Australia. As I mentioned, we've got VHA, Optus, Telstra, Vivid Wireless, AAPT, Primus, TPG. And then, of course, we have programs with different universities. And we're very proud to be a member of the Macquarie Engineering Industry Partnership Program, which we signed last year. And I have a slide here to show you just about the presentation. So last year, after probably about 4 years of discussions, when I first started at Huawei about 5 years ago, I spoke to Professor Eric Duchevich, and we were discussing the partnership program. Huawei was about 60 people at that stage when I started about 5 years ago in Australia. And then as the company grew, I got the public relations people involved because I was on the engineering side of it, and for me to push something like this through was not as easy. So once public relations came on board, we pushed this through, and eventually we were quite eager to do it because we thought that with the ideas that we had heard from Eric and speaking to other people, some of you are here tonight, it was quite an exciting opportunity, and we like to do something local. And as we're located in Chatswood and you're here, we're very close together, so it's an easy opportunity for us to work together. So last year, we signed the agreement. The Premier of New South Wales, Barry O'Farrell, was visiting our headquarters in Shanghai, and via telepresence with the Macquarie team and the Huawei team in our Chatswood office, Barry O'Farrell witnessed the signature with the Macquarie and Huawei teams. So this was all done over our internal telepresence system, which of course Huawei does do a lot of telepresence. And as a result of the partnership program, we eventually moved on to scholarships, where there's opportunities for internships. But just early this year, I had the pleasure of being part of the interview panel for the scholarship. So I believe it was 8 of the top students from Macquarie University engineering program, telecommunications side of it. They came to our offices, and we did a series of interviews. We had a panel of 5 people, so we had different sections of Huawei were involved. So there was myself from Wireless Solutions, we had another engineering person, we had HR, we had project management, and then we had public relations. So the questions we asked were quite varied, because the type of person we're looking for at Huawei is not just somebody who's a genius and who is prepared to sit at the bench and work all day by themselves. Huawei's very team-oriented. We look for people, of course, with that sort of a drive. We look for people who are innovative, very, very energetic, and of course, a team player. We work heavily in teams, and if you get into the R&D you're working in teams in labs, and you may get an opportunity to go to our headquarters or to one of our research and development labs and work as part of a team to develop something. So the 8 people, or the 8 students, were interviewed. We went through a series of questions. Then we weighted the questions. We went through a whole series of comparisons, and we ended up with 2 of the top who we thought would be most appropriate to fit into the Huawei culture. And then there was a presentation done for 2 scholarships for Macquarie University students. So we're quite proud to be part of the Macquarie program, and we like to see this continue. I was speaking to others tonight who are part of, they're looking into smart grid, smart electricity programs, and that's something that we have people who travel around the world discussing this with governments, and this is something we'd like to do further with your engineering team. So I won't go on too, sorry, I could go on forever. With the amount of products that we sell in Huawei, it's very easy to just talk and talk and talk, but I'll cut it short, and if anybody wants to come talk to me afterwards, please feel free to come and talk to me. There's some Huawei corporate reports over there if you're interested in seeing more about who we are, what we do in Australia. Just a further note here. This is our board of directors. So we do have ex-local politicians on our board of directors. This was the first fully local board of directors globally for Huawei, so this was quite an adventure for us, but it's something that Huawei likes to do, is to try and localize as much as possible. So we have John Lord, forget the names of the other 2, the ex-Australian politicians on our board. Thank you.